Good morning. I'm just seeing if I missed anybody. Hi. Hi. Hi, George. All right, so today, let's fix that. Okay, today we're gonna do 2 trees in one. This little skinny guy here, and then this like lollipop teardrop shaped one here. And I'm going to use 3 colors for this. The brown is optional, so that's just if you wanted to add a little brown stem here or a little brown stem here at the bottom. The middle is going to have a detail, so you don't want to have the brown all the way to the top because it's going to fill in the detail. Yeah, so this is just if you want to. So because of that, I'm going to leave the bottom here blank, so I can add that brown thread in later. So I'm going to start here. If you don't want brown thread, then you're going to do 1 straight stitch here first, okay? So let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to do the fly stitch, and the fly stitch can be open or it can be closed. So we're going to do the open one here. It's literally going to follow the rules of this, not the rules, the lines of this one. So it's going to be quite open and airy. If you want it to be a little bit more closed, meaning that if you think there's too much space between these, of course you could put an extra one in the middle, or you can just squish them down a little bit. This one over here is going to be the closed fly stitch. So they're all going to be touching. So it's going to make a solid filled area. So let's do this one first because it's quite simple. We're going to use all 6 strands. We're just putting the thread through the needle. Okay, so this is where I'm talking about if you would like to have the brown at the bottom for the trunk, then you're just going to make 1 straight stitch with brown thread and then tie it off. Yeah, I got here in time. Literally just finished part 1. Oh, perfect. You're all set. Okay, so pretend that we have that straight line there because I don't want to change again. And it's not really pertinent for this. So what we're going to do with the fly stitch is we're going to come up on either the left or the right. It doesn't matter. So it's going to be whichever is more comfortable for you. And you're going to leave a loop like this. Again, I'm using all 6 strands. This is quite a big hoop. It's an 8-inch hoop. If you're using a smaller hoop, you might want to use 4. It just depends on how thick or thin of a line that you want, since removing strands just makes the line thinner. That's all. So you're going to leave a loop like this and come down on the other side at the point. So wherever you put these, this is where your line is going to be. So if you put this one way down here, then it's going to be short on this side and long on this side. If you put it way up here like this, it's going to be longer on this side and short on this side. So you really want to put this needle here where you want it to be at the very tip of this stylized tree branch. Let's just say that, okay? So we're going to put it all the way down. Keep that loop like that. And then here on the line, this is where we're going to catch that thread. So it's going to make a line like that. And we're going to put it down at the next peak or V, upside down V, like that. And that is 1 fly stitch. Okay? So let's do it again for the next one. So you come up on, it doesn't matter if you come up on the left or the right. I tend to do it the same way because it's like repetitive. But obviously if you would rather have it come up on the right and go down on the left, you can do that too, or you can mix it up every time. Yeah. So this one here, you're going to have to make it up a little bit because obviously we've stitched over, okay? And we want this to be in front of this one. So we're just gonna go straight down into these satin stitches. Now this, for some people, is gonna be like, oh, no, don't do it, you're gonna mess it up. The best way to do it is to plan your stitch like this, and then take your needle and go straight down into the stitches. So you don't wanna go on an angle like this or like this, because what's gonna happen is that these are gonna separate like that. Now, a little bit of separation is normal because we're gonna actually put the whole needle down through the thread. So don't freak out if you're like, oh, I can't do it. You can, okay? So I'm just gonna plan where to put it. Here is probably good. And put it all the way down. So you want your needle to go straight down into the stitches, okay? And continue. Now here we want it to go straight up, right where we went down. Can you see that? It kind of blends in. Okay. And again. How is everyone? Are we all right? I didn't even ask. I didn't even ask. It's not good from me. Oh, let's make sure that's right. Now, I use these here a lot with like twigs and branches and stuff. So if you've seen my other work, I tend to stick them in around, especially around flowers. They look really, really nice. And normally they go the other way. So if you flip this upside down, it's exactly the same, except this is going to be a big tree and the other ones are normally, 6 strands. The others are normally more like wafy little twigs. I'll show you in a little bit. So we are going to do 2 trees today, like I said before. Sarah's just said, Screamy baby just went to sleep. So now she's having breakfast. Oh, perfect. So the very last one, before we start on the next one, you're going to do just a little tacking stitch on the other side of that line. So let me pull it down a little bit so you can see a little bit better. And what I mean by that is just on the other side of this piece of thread, you're going to do a little stitch so it looks like a point at the top. So if we continued with the same pattern of the V like that and a long stem, the long stem would end up here and you would have like a really long point to your tree. If you want to do that, then you can, of course. I'm going to end mine just on the other side here like that, so it stays as a point. Okay, so let me flip it over. Snip that off, and I'll quickly do a little brown stem so you can see what it looks like. Now, of course, you could do a green stem if you really wanted to. I keep saying stem because I normally do flowers. So yeah, sorry about that. Tree trunk. If you wanted to have it all green, you could do a green tree trunk. And you could do that with the same, right before you started here, with the same thread. If you would like brown, then you just do a brown straight stitch, and then it's brown. Okay, so the next one, so that's the open fly stitch. The next one is a closed fly stitch. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna work from top to bottom. Where's purple? Top to bottom like this. So we'll do our first one like this here. Excuse me. Oh, I hope I don't get the hiccups. And then the next ones are gonna go right next to it with a tiny little tacking stitch there. And then right next to that with a tiny little tacking stitch there. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna end up filling this whole thing like this. And then in the middle is gonna have little tacking stitches, just like this, all down the center. It's gonna look really cute. The Crafty Minnows just said, is it better to come down between the stitches of the satin area or right through the middle of the threads? That's up to you. I haven't seen a difference either way. The only thing I would say is make your needle straight down, and that will either pierce between or it will pierce through the threads, and then you won't have any kind of separation like that. So if you find that you're going on an angle, then it's going to pull those threads to the side and you'll end up with something like this because your needle's pulling it, you know? So you want to go straight down and it will keep those nice and smooth. Okay, so let's get started on the next one. I'm using a light, it's like a really like a minty colored green, whereas this one was more of a green, just dark. So let's grab that. I'm doing all 6 strands again. I tend to use all 6 strands for bigger hoops because you get a thicker line and it fills up the space more. But again, feel free to experiment if you want to use 3 or 4. I probably wouldn't do 1 or 2 on this one, although it would make a really nice looking like feather, like a feather effect. But it's going to take you forever. It's going to take you so long. So just be a little bit mindful of that. But obviously if you're going to go smaller, 7-inch was the smallest pattern that I provided. But if you wanted to do like just the house and make it a little bit smaller, like a 4-inch hoop or a 5-inch hoop, definitely make these lines thinner because otherwise you're going to have, it's going to be too chunky. Okay, let's see, is that good enough? Good enough? All right, so we're going to start just like we did before, except we're going to start with the brown line first. Yeah, that straight stitch down the middle. And that's going to give a nice point. Can't see this thread very well, can you? So right next to it, and then here's the little tacking stitch. Right on the other side. And then scooch it down a little bit. Let me just make sure I'm in the right spot. On the other side. So it's exactly the same, except we're just squishing all of these up together. And because of that, these middle long stitches are becoming really short tacking stitches. I did see that someone asked what material is best, and I would go to the prep video, so it's on YouTube and IGTV. You can go and have a watch of the prep video because I explain all of the different kinds of fabrics that I like to use whilst stitching. So that would probably be best. So on the outside edge, we're just following the shape. And you can watch any of the prep videos as well. So if you are like, I like this design, but I don't like love it, that's okay too. There's 14 stitch-alongs in the shop. I'm getting my salesy pants on, aren't I? But you can watch any of those. So I tend to do the same prep video, talk about very similar things because we do pretty much the same for all the prep. The prep's mostly the same. So it's talking about the hoops, the needles, the fabric, the pens, the thread. The only ones that are different, I think, are the bag of flowers ones because we did an applique or a watercolor with that one, and the Sea Life stitch along because we did watercolor first on that one too. So most of the other ones are all the same, so they'll all be, you know, good to watch. Make sure you keep them tight. If you see a little bit tight together, meaning touching, not tight, like pull them really tight, because we really don't want to see any puckering or loose fabric around here. So you want to keep your fabric tight and keep your all these stitches kind of squished together like that. I do love how this looks though. Okay, so now we're getting really close to the bottom, and the bottom of mine is curved. The bottom of yours should be curved as well. So once we get to the bottom, we'll just use some straight stitches to fill up that space because we really don't, well, I don't want, at least on mine, to be pointy like this. Of course, you could have yours pointy if you wanted to and just continue it until you fill up the space. But I would like mine to be curved. And do notice that I say that a lot, is that if you want yours to be this way, then do that. And if I want mine to be this way, so I'm going to do it like this. It's not to be like patronizing or anything like that. It's literally, literally like make your own choices. You know what I mean? If you don't like it, then don't do it. Or if you have an idea in the middle, like, oh my goodness, wouldn't it be great if it was like this? Then just try it. Like the worst that can happen is you'll pull it out. So, you know, what's the big deal? So this next one, I'm going to add one more and see if that right there will make it a little bit more curved, and then I won't have to use the straight stitches at all. We'll see. If I just do one more like this. The other thing that I like to say, yeah, that did a good job. The other thing that I like to say is that if you stitch it and you're really, really bothered with how it looks, every time you look at it, you're going to be bothered. Like every single time. So I always say, if you look at it and you hate it, you're always going to hate it. So just take it out. Just do yourself a favor and just take it out. Someone's just said, could you do this instead of the fishbone stitch for leaves on other patterns? You can use any stitch that you want. Obviously, it's going to look different than fishbone stitch because fishbone stitch has that crisscross, where this one has the bumps down the middle. So actually, the fishbone stitch looks a little bit more like this on the back. How it's crisscrossed like that. Okay? Whereas this one has the bumps down the middle. So it does look different. Sometimes if you want the look of a satin stitch, but you don't want to do each stitch on each side and up at the top and all the way around, you could do this stitch and then cover up the middle if you don't like the look of the bump. Bear with me, bear with me. Yeah? So it looks almost like satin stitch, but 50 times faster. Because satin stitch does tend to take a long time, especially if you want to have this effect of them both going down like this, angled. So if you wanted to, you could cover up all of those bumps if you don't like the look of it with just one straight stitch down the middle. If you like the look of the bumps, you can just do a stitch in the bottom, or you can do a green stitch at the bottom if you want to keep it all green for this one. That is okay too. Totally fine. I haven't said that this time yet. This is a great time to experiment with stitches as well. So I've just done one straight stitch down the middle of these ones for the tree trunk. You could do 2 stitches if you wanted to make it like a wider tree trunk. You can go all the way to the top here and make it look like the line is going down the middle. You could do a bunch of tiny little stitches instead of one big long stitch, and then it would keep the same like little motif of like bum, 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 all the way down, bum, 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 like that. It's totally up to you. There you go. I said it. Totally up to you. Totally fine. There we go. So that's what we've done today. We've done 6 strands, open fly stitch and closed fly stitch. They're both fly stitch. They're just one is more open, one is more closed. That's it. So let's zoom out and see what we've got so far. This is it. Oh, it looks so nice. Oh, I really like that. Look at me, like patting myself on the back. Girl, you did good. All right, well, that is all from me for today. You guys have done such a great job so far. I'm not gonna lie. Starting with a satin stitch, some people really hate it because they just cannot get them smooth enough, and they cannot get them close together enough, or they get them too close together. But you all have literally nailed it. You've done so great. I'm so proud already. It's only day 2. So be sure to continue to tag with the Barmy Fox and hashtag the Barmy Fox SAL. And I'll try and like and comment and share as many as I can. So I hope you have a great Tuesday. I hope you enjoy the fly stitch. I'll talk with you tomorrow. All right. Bye.